The second point is you should be able to manage social events, whether that's overindulging or over restricting. When you come out of a diet, you will have either restricted your capabilities or restricted your effort levels. When you go to social events, you may have felt restricted, you may have felt like you couldn't enjoy the festivities and enjoy the things that other people are having, or you may have managed it at a pretty decent rate during the diet because you had that diet in the back of your mind. You said, oh, I can only have one plate of this, or I can only have half of this, and you're a lot more focused during that dieting phase. But as you move into a lifestyle phase, and effectively the constraints of your diet are off, and the reasons for you to like say no become also less because you haven't got that all impending diet or that fat loss which you've been focused on for a long period of time is at the back of your mind. So when you go to these social events, you're going to need to have some level of habitual process, whether it's a portion sized approach, whether it's you're enjoying with the festivities that they have, and over time you will get better at these. It's not something that you just walk into one day and now you're like, yeah, I can manage this social event very, very well. It's going to be that rock in a hard place where you've been restricting before. You come into the social event and you do one or two things. You either want to overeat or want to eat with the family, but if your family are like, reality is if they're 90 kilos, 100 kilos, and they have those habitual processes, the amount of food that they'll eat isn't representative of what you need to eat to kind of keep to these new standards that you're holding yourself to. So you'll find it very difficult to give yourself that smaller portion, especially if you've been restricting for a long period of time, and you'll more than likely go overzealous. And other alternative to that, if you've done a fat loss phase and you're really like protective about the results that you've got and you don't want to lose them because of how great it feels or how good it is, then you'll go to these events and you'll do exactly what you did in the dieting phase, which is say no or take your own food or like really just restrict very highly. So as you go through this process of living with autonomy standards, you will be able to manage, you and your coach will go through what it actually is that you want to do at these events. If it is a case of, okay, I want to go to these events, and when we have a takeaway on a Friday night, I want to go in and enjoy that takeaway. I want to get, fish and chips, or I want to get a main meal from a takeaway, an Indian place, and I want to have, the naan, I want to have the rice, and I want to have the paneer. And what you'll do with your coach is you'll set out strategies proactively to then go to these events and see how you get on. Once you do that a few times and you're doing it proactively, that's the sign of someone that is a habitual thinker, is a more of a lifestyle approach where you're going there with a headspace of like, I've made the decision already, so that when I get there, I'm not sprung on the last minute attempts. Over time, you will do less things proactively and more potentially reactively if you are happy with the scenarios you've been in, or if it's another scenario with the same people that kind of what's going to happen. You've all got those friends that will pull out the bottle of wine when you go around. You've always got those friends that will probably have dessert, or those that will get a takeaway. And you have those friends that are more the ones that you don't drink with, and they're just the ones that you have maybe a little spot of lunch, but they eat healthy too. So then you end up having healthier foods or like less calorie foods. So you'll know from those scenarios, once you've practiced it for a period of time, what you can do. And like for me at the moment in time, and for me when I've moved into that stage of autonomy before I've started the diet again, this is like, February 1st, 2021, so I don't know when anyone is watching this. It is still COVID, so that's why the beard is crap and the hair is shaggy. Is that when I got to that point, is that I could go into any event and just manage it accordingly because I had enough calories. I was exercising enough, I was managing it great, and I was in a sweet spot where my body weight was probably higher than what people would deem a personal trainer to be. I didn't have abs. I'm in a building phase, so therefore calories are higher, body fat's a little bit higher, but with that element, you can enjoy food a lot more, and you don't have to worry about if I'm going to be underneath my 2,200 calories because I was up at 3,000. And if you have a takeaway, and providing that you stick to a relatively decent amount, you're not going to go over your calorie allowance. So you can be more reactive the less focus you have on that physique, which you'll work with your coach to define that continuum that I spoke about in the last video. Where you sit on that continuum will almost define how reactive you can be versus proactive. If you're wanting your physique to be something that is Adonis and always ready to take your top off in a six-pack or some level of that, then you're going to have to be proactive in most situations, because that will require a level of discipline. Whereas you can be more reactive if you don't mind your body fat being a little bit higher and you don't mind having more calories to play with. So it's very, very interesting to go through that process with your coach. And as you do that, the social events will then define that too. You'll get more abreast, but the biggest point is making sure that everything is proactive and you're not doing the same as what you did in the diet, because it's different. If you're going into a diet, you're sacrificing as much as you can. You're getting to know the habits and saying no, and that level of commitment and what is a priority. As you move into a lifestyle, it's more like, what do I actually really want? What is going to give me fulfillment, as opposed to that short-term win of, oh yeah, I just want to eat everything, or I just want to get that 1 kilo off, etc. So there's more of a thought process behind, okay, I'm going to this thing on Friday, I want to enjoy this. You go to your favorite restaurant, you don't want to have the salad, you want to have your favorite dish. So then you talk to your coach about that and then manage that effectively, and then you go through periods of that where you're being proactive and you're succeeding in those events, will only lead to better control of them over time as well. So once you've done that dieting phase and managed social events, you'll have to come and wipe the slate clean again in a lifestyle, and there's a new context to it of what you actually want and where you actually want to sit on that continuum, and who's going, and what that means for your calorie intake and drink intake. So therefore, you'll then manage that as effectively as possible with your coach.